If someone was to ask me 30 years ago if I had to choose between fundamental analysis or technical analysis, my default answer would be fundamental analysis would be good enough for you. The reason for that is that the markets back in the day was a buy and hold approach. Even if you kept it for a month, even if you kept it for a year, you were in store for sure shot gains. Just looking at the market trends and how it would just keep rising year after year, month after month. But in today's volatile age, it's so difficult to really depend on either one part of analysis for your understanding of how the market is performing. So today we'll analyze the fundamental side of the coin and also the technical side of the coin and really decide what approach fits your needs. So let's get started and let's analyze this first. This is on one piece of paper. This is all that you need in front of you. So the primary difference between fundamental is that fundamental analysis looks at the intrinsic value of a stock. In comparison, technical analysis looks at charts and patterns and trends. So all it means in simple terms is that if you are looking at a chart and trying to identify where the stock is moving based on any particular chart candlestick pattern, that is where you are relying on technical analysis for your trades. Now, for the fundamental investor, they do rely heavily on investing for their analysis. So if you are an investor, if you are a long-term trader, you would be dependent on fundamental analysis. Now, if you're a short-term to a medium-term trader, you are relying on technical analysis more. So that's just like the basics of between the two. Now, for decision making is what price do you buy a stock at? What price do you sell a price at? Now, a fundamental analyst would rely heavily on statistics and information about the particular stock. Now, a technical analyst would depend more on market trends and the price of the stock to make his decisions. Now, the focus of a fundamental analyst would be more on past and present data. And in comparison, technical analysis is more on past data. And that's a big difference between the two, is that technical analysis can be considered to be stale data, and you're relying on past information to decide on how is it going to predict or what's going to happen in the future. Now, from terms of what is analyzed, in terms of fundamental analysis, you would look at economic reports, news events, returns on equity, which is also known as a ROE, returns on assets, and industry statistics to kind of guide you in making a good informed decision of your stock. In terms of technical analysis, you're more reliant on chart analysis, candlestick patterns, trends, indicators to predict what's going to happen in the future. Now, future prices are predicted on the basis of past and present performance and profitability of the company. So that's where it's a hybrid mixture between what the stock has done in the past and what it has currently done. And technical analysis is just dependent on predicting the future based on charts. So looking at the chart where it is right now, you are now trying to predict what's going to happen in the future. So that's just a summary between the key differences between these two particular types of analysis. Now, a very important point to keep in mind now, in a typical market, fundamental factors drive stock prices up and down on companies' earnings, news, and profitability. However, when the panic sets in, so that's when like something bad happens, or if like the market's in a turmoil and doesn't know what to do, that's when technical analysis will dictate or drive the prices down. So for example, if the price goes below the 200 moving average, you'll see a sharp decline in this price, even though the fundamentals don't really would actually make you feel that it's actually a weak performing stock. But just because the technicals broke through the 200 moving average, you will see a very sharp decline down. So that's something to keep in mind when you are analyzing the two to make a better decision. Now, a pro tip for you. In layman's terms, fundamental analysis is generally factored into the technical price of a stock. So what I mean by that is whenever the fundamentals come out for a particular stock, the stock definitely would put the fundamental. Now, a pro tip for you: fundamental analysis is generally factored into the technical price of a stock. So by definition, or by comparison between the two, fundamental analysis is generally equal to the technical analysis in layman's terms. Now, something to keep in mind is that fundamental analysis always leads technical analysis. So what I mean by that is the news that comes out about a particular stock would come out first, and then the market or the technicals would then react to it. But in some time, maybe a few seconds or maybe a few minutes or maybe a day, the technicals will then reflect the fundamentals of the stock, and that's when they become equal. But the fundamentals will always lead a particular stock. So that's something to keep in mind. This is, very important when you are performing your analysis, because a small news spike could come out and you will see the market then change direction with the with whatever news comes. Now, if you had to decide between, should I rely heavily on just fundamental analysis, or should I rely on technical, or should I rely on both, I made it very simple for you. And this is like a cheat sheet that you could use depending on what your trading style is. So in layman's terms, if you are an investor, if you are someone that trades between 5 years to a very long period of time, you can depend just on fundamentals and you will make good amounts of money. Now, if you are a position trader, so your average time frame of trading is between 1 year to 5 years, you could still rely just on fundamentals, and that should be good enough for you. Now, if you're a trend trader and your average time frame is between, say, a duration of a trend, that could be a few weeks, could be a few months, or maybe even a year. Now, in those times, you could then rely a little bit on fundamentals, but heavily on technicals, because you're analyzing more the trends and what's going to happen in particular trends to make your decisions in your. Now, if you are a swing trader, and again, a swing trader is also something which is between a long and a short-term type of trader, you would still rely heavily on technical analysis, but lightly on fundamentals. So what I mean by that is you'll also be looking at a few key fundamental factors while dependent heavily on charts and dependent on candlesticks, dependent on chart patterns and things like that. So just to keep that in mind as well. Now, if you're a day trader, anything short term, if your average time frame is a day or maybe a couple days, technical analysis is all that you need to make your decisions. Now, if you're a short-term trader or a scalper, anything from a few seconds to a minute, technical analysis is all that you need to make a decision. But one thing to keep in mind is that sometimes news may come out overnight. Sometimes earning results may come and would then define or change the direction of a market. So that's something that you should be hyper aware of. But if you're just keeping an eye on the news and then rely heavily on the technicals, you'll still be a very successful trader. And there are a lot of day traders that rely heavily on just the technicals and are very successful and are millionaires by doing so as well. So after going through all of this, if your final question is, should you rely on fundamental analysis at all? I would say yes, you have to. But at the same time, remember that charts don't lie. Charts are the footprints of the market. So just dependent on fundamentals by itself won't give you good gains if you're trading anywhere between a short-term trader or anytime between a year or less than a year time frame, which is what you would be dealing with. So that's something that you have to keep in mind while deciding what kind of analysis would be best suited for your trading approach. So I hope this was very helpful to you. I hope you've got a better understanding of what is technical analysis, what are fundamentals, and when to use what for your trading. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please stay tuned for more videos to come that will give you better understanding of how the market's performing. So with that, thank you and hope you like this video.